first things first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Erica Schutt. I am a second-year PhD student in the Educational Policy and Leadership program here at UAlbany, which is located in the School of Education. So I'm also an advisor in the Pathways and Education Center here at UAlbany, also in the School of Education. And our office really offers initial advisement to students who are interested in the education field. Now, we have a lot of people contacting us thinking we're New York State Education Department. We're not. We're pretty knowledgeable, but not that knowledgeable. But sometimes students come into our office with questions like navigating teacher certification, interested in what programs we offer. They're interested in the field of education, but don't really know what options are available to them or different pathways in the career field. So we really do our best to try and navigate that alongside the student so they feel really supported in their pathway. There's a couple advisors in our office. We have Dr. Alyssa Yusko. She's our director in the PI Center. PI Center, of course, standing for Pathways into Education. That's kind of what we go by because Pathways into Education can be a mouthful sometimes when you're answering the phones all day. But so we have a couple people on the call who are in programs within the School of Ed that are going to eventually share a little bit of their experience in the programs. So Emily and Leasia, am I saying that right? Leasia, very pretty. So if you guys want to introduce yourself really quickly, that'd be fine, and then we can get started. Either one can go first, doesn't matter.
I can go first. Hi, my name is Leasia Royale. I am a undergraduate student in going to be in my senior year next semester. I am part of the TUI Fellows program at the university. I'm a human development major with a concentration in special education. And my plans are to be in the BSMS program for the Special Education and Literacy 2 program.
Hi, everyone. I'm currently an MSSE student, which stands for Masters of Science in Secondary Education. It's kind of a mouthful like Pathways in Education, so we just kind of say MSSE. I have one more semester left. I want to be an English teacher, specifically high school, and I'm very excited to be with you all today. And I also did my undergrad at UAlbany, so second UAlbany alum. Woo!
So, like Leasia and Emily had mentioned, I am also an alumni of the UAlbany institution, if you will. So I had my undergraduate degree from here, and then within the School of Education, I was applied and accepted into a combined bachelor's master's program for mental health counseling. And then from there decided I couldn't get enough of UAlbany. So I decided to stay and am now in the PhD program as well. So we have a ton of experience here. So I'm trying to think of the best way to navigate this. It might be just asking us questions that you may have and us trying to navigate that with you. First and foremost, the one thing we do not want to do is give you any wrong information. So if for some reason we don't have an answer to your question, I in the PI Center will track down the answer. And if you just provide me with an email, I'll ensure you get that information in a timely manner. So you won't have to worry about that. But yeah, do you guys have any questions or, I know in the PI office, we talk a lot about different opportunities, funding, scholarship opportunities, different pathways that are in the field of education. And then we can also go over any questions that you guys might have about any of our programs in the School of Ed. I think you're muted, Audrey. There you go. Perfect.
Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Audrey. I am part of the School of Education in the Human Development Department, a concentration in educational psychology, which they've changed the name for, and I don't know what it is. It's something weird. But I'm going into I'm a technical senior just because of the credits I have. and I had a lot of transfer credits that came over, but I also have, but I have like a year out, so I'm still like a year out. What I wanted to know was about, and I hear that all three of you have experience in it, or and Leasia, you're trying to get into the combined program, programs within the Department of Ed school. But I want to know, how difficult did you find that process of going into the combined program? Because that's what I want to do that as well. I'm looking forward to going forward into a PhD program, but I believe that starting and doing the combined program and doing the master's level work will prepare me for that, rather than going from undergrad jumping straight into a PhD program, which I'm not quite familiar with what's happening there. So did you find the process difficult? Is it difficult? I mean, what do you feel is the most difficult portion of that process? And do you feel that it's preparing you for a PhD program? Erica, you went through a PhD program after that, and Emily, you're preparing. So those are my questions.
Yeah, so great questions. So I think first and foremost, so I went to a community college for my first 2 years and then transferred to UAlbany for my 4-year degree. And I was immediately connected with a really, really great support system, to be completely honest and fully transparent. And that kind of changed the game for me. I declared my minor in human development, which allowed me to, it kind of opened that door for the opportunity of the combined program. So I think the couple things in the question. So the first part, I think the scariest part for me, or the most difficult, was really taking that step of, oh my goodness, now I just went through undergraduate degrees, and before I even finish my undergraduate degree, I'm going to take master's level coursework. And I think it was just myself making sure I was ready to kind of take that next step. And I feel like those feelings of fear and kind of reluctancy faded away quickly because I had that support system. So I had a lot of people pushing me and encouraging me and getting me ready through that application process to make sure that I was on the right track to being a competitive candidate. So, I mean, and the Pi Center, we also do that stuff. We make sure that as UAlbany students or even prospective students, they feel that feeling of support because it's so important and it's such a big part of the application process, because grad school is daunting in and of itself. Applying to grad school sometimes can feel like a full-time job. So, it's equal parts finding the right program that fits you, and making sure that that process of the application is something that you become increasingly more familiar with, which you will, because you'll have the support of your advisor, your professors, your peers, the Pi Center, all these different organizations and programs that offer that additional layer of support, if that makes sense. But I don't know, Emily, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, so I actually took my first few steps with a couple of my friends as well. That support system really helped me to even make that first step. And Pi, I actually went to you guys. So it's been, I think his name was Matt, and he was in the front office. And I remember going in and I said, okay, my friend and I here, we want to apply to your program, but we don't know where to start. And he gave us like a pamphlet, a paper. He gave us a bunch of information. He kind of walked us through. He had like this very nice demeanor, helped us out. And every time I had a question, I could email him. He was very quick. I'm not trying to like promote the Pi Center so much, but it's like that was my process. Like I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't think I had the grades. I didn't think I had enough on my resume to go into a master's program. But the Pi Center, along with the references I had, which choose your references wisely, I guess I would say. make sure people that really you have met and gotten to know throughout your path in education, that they can help support you. But it's mostly about support. I think that was something I needed to do, and also have confidence in myself. That was something I was lacking as an undergrad, and I knew that I needed to, I guess, buck up and become more, I guess, understanding of who I was. I guess I'm going into more of like a monologue right now, but I really wanted to, combine myself with the program. I didn't want to just be this, I'm just taking another program. I'm just, going through the minutia of school. I wanted to make sure I connected with it. And the Pi Center definitely helped me with that.
Okay.
I can give you a perspective of applying now. You most likely won't be applying to my program. But the biggest thing was taking the GRE for me. That took a lot of stress, especially while taking it during the semester. And Emily gave a really good point that your references are really important. And I think it's, make sure you have at least one professor so they can see you in an academic mindset, and have somebody that you have experience with so then they can give you working life experience. That's super important. And when you have questions, make sure to ask. Like, I'm someone, I will ask questions if I have them, and it really does help. And it also gives another line of communication to the people you are asking the questions to. And it's just like Emily and what Erica said, it's about just having confidence in yourself and knowing that, everything happens for a reason. And, if you believe in yourself, you will get into the program.
Well, I do believe in myself. That part I got. Yeah, okay. So I think all of that is very, everything that you guys have shared is very relevant. And I can see how that works in this. And okay, so, but to go back to you, Leasia, you're talking about, it's just the four of us, right? Am I missing someone else? Because I don't want to talk too much and someone else is missing out. Oh, okay. So Leasia, you were saying about the GREs. I thought that this year the GREs were, that you didn't have to take the GREs this year. So what happened?
So for my, I want to be a special education teacher. So you have to have the GRE in order to be in the program. Right now, how they're doing the GRE is either at home or you could take it at a test center. I took mine at home. I would definitely say make sure all your programs are working on your computer if you have to take it. Some programs are opting out and you don't have to now because of COVID. But my specific program, I had to take it no matter what in order to get into the program.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that, I was like, whoa, because that's the other thing so for me, I'm trying to, like I said, I want to go into the educational psychology program. And for the master's level one, like I said, I really want to have the experience on that level before I go into a PhD program. I was encouraged to go into a PhD program by my professors, and at first it wasn't even on my my brain at all. And then I was like, oh, actually that sounds like something actually I would want to do. And so I do believe I have good references. So that portion of it, this GRE thing, is going to be an issue because I haven't taken it yet. And so, like, at what point in the process do you need to take it for the combined programs? Do you know? Or, like I said, I'm trying to do the educational psychology combined program.
So, go ahead, Leasia.
I was going to say, I personally don't know, and I don't think you have to take it for your program. But correct me if I'm wrong, Erica.
Well, it's tricky. So the teacher certification programs all require a GRE because, so in UAlbany, we kind of work directly under New York State Education Department. So they kind of set the ground rules for certification and licensure. And they require all teacher prep programs in New York State to require a GRE. So Leisha and Emily's programs were a little bit different because they did require the GRE score. So the combined program, as far as I know, which I say that because things change rapidly in education, as of right now, it does require a GRE. Now, we can definitely double check on that. The GRE, though, in terms of an application, is just one part of the application. The School of Ed really, across all departments, really stresses that the GRE is just one part of the application. So things like really strong letters of recommendation, a good statement of goals or a background statement where you can kind of really get personal with the application. Those are the things that really hold a lot of weight in the application process. Now, the school psych program is competitive.
Not school psych, educational psych.
Oh yeah, no, I apologize. That's what I'm thinking in my head, sorry. So the educational psych, and that goes for all of our PhD and PsyD programs. They're competitive, of course, but it's really not, like we try really hard to encourage students to try their best, but there's so much more to a prospective student than a standardized GRE score, you know? So, I mean, again, try your best. It's important, but it's not as important, or it doesn't hold as much weight as, like we said, those letters of recommendation and those background of goals, statement of goals. If your application process includes an interview process, that's going to hold a lot of weight as well. So yeah, let me just.
Can I also add?
It's likely going to make, Tammy, I think, put something into the chat. Let's see. The ed psych degree is likely going to make the GRE optional after this year. Okay.
Lucky.
Which this goes for everyone. That's why it's so important to continue to check our websites and check in with the university, just because, like I said, things do change. And I think especially after this year and the whole pandemic, things might look a little bit different moving forward. I don't know that personally, but I mean, just the way things have been going. So yeah, thank you for that, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
Just to add real quick as well, I actually did not take the GRE, and that was, yeah. So I took something called the Praxis, and that was specifically with, teacher education. And I know it's probably a little bit different than where you're going, Audrey, but it was a similar test, but a lot easier. I don't think you can necessarily take it. I don't know, you would have to look into with Pi, but I had to take it twice, and I don't think my grades were the best, but like I'm kind of emphasizing with the GRE, it's not the grades. I think it's more of your passion, how you feel about where you want to go. Especially I'm assuming to go for a PhD, there has to be some type of drive, some reason, and they want to see that. So
yeah, thank you.
So what other questions did the group have at all? Or if it's easier, if you have a specific program that you're interested in applying to, or just even having additional information, I'm happy to kind of go over that briefly, and then I can take your information and then send you additional information if you'd like that as well. I think maybe while people are, oh, Joanne, go ahead.
Hello. So I am here with my daughter, who is actually only a sophomore in high school. So she is very much at the very beginning of learning what she wants to do for her future. She wants to become a teacher, obviously, and she is probably looking to be an English as a second language teacher. That's where she tends to focus. So she is enjoying, like Leasia, doing something more support oriented as opposed to, in a classroom on her own. Not necessarily whether she'd go to U Albany or not. So it's just the whole, like, how do you get into this whole process? Like, you obviously, she's in advanced classes in high school. We'll be taking some college courses for the next 2 years in high school. So she'll start in that. Our plan is to, like yourself, Erica, doing a 2-year at Hudson Valley to start. And then we'll probably from there go to, I know the programs that do that particular in the state of New York are Stony Brook and I believe, what was the other? Oswego. I think those are the two universities in New York that provide that for her future.
Awesome.
So any advice on like getting started in the whole process?
Yeah. Well, this is 100% a personal preference of mine, but I highly recommend a 2-year degree at a community college, just because, especially at UAlbany, most, not all, but most majors require you to take those general education courses those first 2 years. So I think it's a great idea to save some money, especially if you're not super interested in what you want to do yet. Now, the other thing is, so are you familiar with how teacher certification works in New York State?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sure, if not, it's okay, but I'm sure you're familiar with, you can get it one of two ways, at the undergraduate level or the graduate level. Our personal philosophy here at UAlbany is we only offer teacher certification programs at the graduate level because in New York State, you need a master's degree to teach in a public school. So our philosophy is you might as well get it in one fell swoop. Now, we did have a TESOL program. We still do. It's just kind of being revamped right now. So unfortunately, it's not offered right now. And I know that doesn't really affect her too much because she's still just a sophomore, which kudos to you, by the way, for getting ahead of the game. That's awesome. But yeah, so what would happen is it's going to depend on if you want to get that teacher certification at the undergraduate versus the graduate level. So if you're looking at Stony Brook, I think you said, and then Oswego, I'm assuming they offer it at the undergraduate level. I'm not 100% positive just because I'm not super familiar with their programs. But if that's the case, what would happen is you'd get it at the undergraduate level. Hopefully that program would include things like your DASA trainings, any kind of trainings that you would need for that specific teacher certification, which again, the institution should, and I'm assuming would know more about because they offer that specific program. So you would go apply to that program, hypothetically get in, celebrate, yay, congrats, go through that program, get all the necessary coursework and trainings and everything like that. And then you would be granted the initial teacher certification. With that, you would take some exams that would certify you in that specific content area for New York State Education Department. And again, you'll have support going through that with your program as well, so that won't be an issue. And then you'll need initial and professional certification to teach in New York State. So the initial certification would be taken care of through one of those programs at the undergraduate level, hypothetically. And I just say hypothetically because, again, at UAlbany, we only have it at the graduate level. But once you graduate from the undergraduate level with that initial teacher certification, you can work for 3 years in the profession, in the educational profession, in a classroom. And then it's up to you to get that master's degree within, I believe it's 5 years, to then qualify for professional certification. So to qualify for the professional certification, you'll need that master's degree. And like off the top of my head, I know at UAlbany right now we offer our curriculum development and instructional technology, which technically isn't a certification program, but, and this is where it gets a little confusing, it's recognized by New York State as a related teacher's master's. So that means that you would have your initial certification, go through that curriculum development and instructional technology master's program, and that master's program would qualify you for professional certification. So again, it goes back to whether or not you want to do it at the undergraduate level or the graduate level, because it looks a little bit different depending on what pathway you choose. But the overarching takeaway from all of that information is that there's a lot of options to get to where you want to be. It's just all about finding the best fit for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know that you have both options. I know I have a cousin who's actually has her doctorate in, she did go for English as a second language, and now is an administrative person in schools in Virginia. But she had said, I don't know, she doesn't know the New York system, even though she went to New York schools through her high school, but for college and obviously graduate, and then for her doctoral, all was out of state. But she did say, it makes most sense to do your master's work if you have to do your internships wherever you plan to do your teaching. Like if you want to become a teacher in the district, in an Albany school district in this area, if that's where you want to live, it makes most sense to try to do your graduate work in a school that's associated with those schools locally. If that's where you ultimately want to end up teaching, it just makes it somewhat easier. So it's good to know that she could do that, although I think we were leaning towards her doing the full 3 years at whichever school she goes for her to finish her undergrad, that she would do her graduate work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, to be completely honest, that's typically what we see at UAlbany as students who are, that's why, there was such a big push with the combined programs, was because a lot of students were getting acclimated already with the university and figured they would just stay here for their master's degree. But again, it is all about whether or not you want to, there's pros and cons to each pathway, of course, and those pros and cons are specific to the individual who's looking at the program. So, students sometimes really like just going from their undergraduate to their master's and being done with it. Some people want to take a break and work a little bit and then work and do the program part-time. It's all personal preference. So yeah.
I have a close friend who's a special ed teacher, and she did her undergrad at Oneonta and then came back and worked for a little bit in the area, and then did at St. Rose, did her master's.
Yeah.
And while she was working. So
yeah. And I mean, people do it. It's definitely, it's doable, of course, because people do it. But it's a lot. It's definitely a lot to have to work full time. And of course, people who are teachers or no teachers know how much work that is outside of the 8-hour workday. So it can be tricky to navigate, but I mean, you think of the teachers who have families to support or different financial obligations that they have that just have to work. So that is, of course, one of the biggest pros of education is that, you can kind of mold it depending, but you can mold it. And, some of our programs are a little bit more flexible than others, dependent on coursework, certification, program paths, stuff like that. But yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If I could add something to that, Erica, especially to Isabel, who is, sophomore year, that's you're young and bright and you're ready to take on the world. I forgot what that felt like, but it's very exciting to hear that there's a future teacher in our midst. But from personal experience, I had a really bad burnout while I was going to school, and I'm 23 and I'm almost done with all my education, but I really wish I took that year off. And for someone who, is, about to go into the workforce, in a few months, it's very scary because I don't feel like I'm completely there, if that makes sense, especially with the pandemic. It has not helped, I'm sure, anyone. But just know your strengths and you'll figure them out, especially as you become a freshman in college that, just kind of bombards. But I took the 4-year route where I did all my 4 years at UAlbany, and I would highly not recommend that. I was not ready for it. Doesn't mean you aren't, but I was not ready for it. And the 2-year, I definitely wish I did that. But I think just taking your time and not pushing yourself to the ultimate limit will definitely help in your growth, in your understanding of what you're going to be doing. And so just from my personal experience, I would kind of take not the slower route, but just the lesser amount, I don't want to call it work, but lesser amount of work route. Um, yeah.
I just want to add on real quick too. I think it's important. You are a sophomore in college. I was thinking about college super young too. That it's okay to change your mind when you are in school. I changed my mind exactly the route I wanted to go on in my sophomore year of college. And it's okay. It's super important that you know too that college is not just the education part and the professional part. It's also learning about yourself and what, just like Emily had said, your strengths, your weaknesses, where you strive in. So making sure you pick an environment where you can see yourself growing in many different aspects. I'm from Albany and I stayed at U Albany because I knew that I could still have my family near me because that's important, but I knew I can grow professionally on campus and off.
Yeah, thank you all for your advice. I know it is daunting to think that someone, at 16 can kind of have an idea what they want to do. And as a parent, you're like, I don't know, things don't always turn out the way you planned. So, but I think you're all right. The 2-year program, and she'll be living at home. We'll give her the support. I mean, she's very family oriented too. So I think that's going to be very nice. Then the 2 years away, possibly 3, depending on whether she does decide to do her master's, rolled all in, and then that may be an option. Or if as a state school, they may follow UAlbany's same plan and have that, combined program, which is nice to obviously be done sooner. And our aspiration is to, based on the fact that she'll have probably about 20, I think they said like 21 credits towards college, going into college once she's done with high school. And if she takes enough classes, even she could do summer classes, January classes at Hudson Valley, she could almost be done in a year or a year and a summer. Would be nice. Then she can, add that onto the other end.
And I mean, I think even since I've been at UAlbany, which has been going on almost 6 years, I think, maybe 7, there's been quite a few adjustments that I've seen, even just being a student here, let alone working here. But being a student here, I've seen so much more enthusiasm behind supporting students who are just trying to figure it out and go through the process. I can only speak for UAlbany with this. I mean, I can speak with Hudson Valley too, because I did go there, but it's really important to higher education professionals and people in the K through 12 pipeline that students are supported at the end of the day. So just keeping that in the back of your mind and knowing that although the process can be pretty daunting, there's always an office, a person, a professional, a student, a professor that can help you navigate that and make the process a little bit easier and less overwhelming. And hopefully try and make it a little bit fun as well, because, this is the fun part of being able to take classes that you really are interested in and finding out what you like and don't like. And even if you're finding more of what you don't like, that's still useful information. So I'm excited for you. Good luck. Let us know if you need anything. But yeah, we have a couple more minutes left. I'm open to hanging out too. If people want to talk, one-on-one, that's fine with me. But I just wanted to see if there were any other questions, or again, programs that anyone was interested in, even career options and education, anything like that at all.
Is there, this is just from my standpoint, is there a PhD or like a doctoral program that's an EED, or you get your EED, something like that?
Good question. So right now, not at UAlbany, not at UAlbany within the School of Ed. So we have which actually I can share my screen. I have a dog who is relentlessly barking, so I sincerely apologize, but he's just saying hi. So these are all the programs we offer within the School of Ed. Can you guys see this okay? Yeah, perfect. So, our only undergraduate program at the time, currently is our human development, which a lot of students double major in, quite to be completely honest, double major in psychology, sociology, all that good stuff. And usually our students who are interested in our combined programs for educational psych, counseling psych, special education, major in human development, and then apply to that combined program about their junior year. So these are our master's programs, quite a few, and then our doctoral programs. So you'll see the PhD and then our PsyD program, and then our certificates, as well as our minors. So unfortunately right now we do not have an ED, but we have PhDs, we have PsyDs, we have certificate programs, we have masters, we have an undergraduate degree. So we're building. But Emily, I encourage you to, as a suggestion, if that's something that you're interested in, bring it up to your department chair and say, hey, I think this would be a really great opportunity for the School of Education. Maybe think about it. And people definitely take that seriously, because we're always trying to, of course, accommodate the students as best we can.